Hey everybody, how are y'all doing out in Facebook world?
Hey, it's the Brightons coming to you live from our studio kitchen, and it is March the 3rd.
Today is our youngest daughter's 21st birthday.
birthday.
Shout out to Hannah, happy birthday,
Yep.
sweetie, and we know that you're about to go to South Carolina and go to Redemption Church with Pastor John Gray, and we just know that that's just going to be amazing. So,
Yep. So
awesome.
I don't think today's the day that she's letting the cat out of the bag.
Yeah.
So she'll be leaving soon. But anyway, so we're just wanting to hop on here. We actually have a 21st birthday party to go to and a bon voyage party for her also. And so we wanted to just talk a little bit about, so we've had, this weekend we just got back from Athens.
Man, if y'all are in the Athens area, around Fort Worth.
I was going to say first, we just got back from Athens.
Athens, right next to Rome and Paris.
Texas. So we were in Athens, Texas. But it sounds way better just to say Athens. Hey, Jacqueline, how are you? So anyway, go ahead. So tell them about Athens, Texas.
So we just met. We went to Life Fellowship Church. Pastor Mark Allen and his wife Lisa are just amazing. Such a down-to-earth, real, transparent church.
Yes.
And they just put on an amazing event and it was for married couples, singles, whoever wanted to come. There's probably 300 or 400 people there, but we're believing next year it's going to be completely sold out because what the message that was brought was just fantastic, and we're going to kind of reiterate what
it's what we learned yesterday.
Yeah,
so that's what I was going to say. We've been out
Pastor
of town.
Sean and
we've been out of town the last couple of days, and so we just got back, and then like I said, we're going to our daughter's 21st birthday party, and then this morning our best friends did their testimony in our Marriage Rocks class at Lakewood Church, and so we've kind of been on the go trying to figure out what are we, and I've had a stomach virus for 3 days, but I have been a trooper. Have I not been a trooper?
You've been
I've been a trooper. I mean, put the makeup on, put those clothes on, act like I felt good, and then
I'm like, stomach virus, who cares? You pierced your own ears last week, just go.
I can do whatever.
You can do whatever.
Yeah,
stomach virus.
Yeah, that's nothing.
Right.
And so Pedialyte and I are friends. And so we
and
are.
So we're going to get all that out of the way.
The whole point to tell you that was the reason is I didn't know what we were going to talk about this week on Facebook Live. And usually we like to kind of prepare and talk about it. But then we remembered we heard this great message yesterday at the Together Conference in Athens, Texas from Sean and Lynette Reed, who are our just really close friends. We're about to start doing an EXO tour date night with them. And they did a great message about 8 simple things that you can do to change your marriage.
And what was funny is I told Sherry, I go, because we talk about these things in a different way, and we say simple, it's not easy. We could say 8 easy steps, but it's not easy. It's simple, but these steps take time. They take discipline. It takes holding your tongue. It takes God coming in and working through you.
And
it truly does.
There's a reason why we say simple and not easy.
Yeah.
Because people always go, well, it's not easy. Well, it's not easy, but simple and easy are 2 different things. Easy means it takes work, but simple is really, it's like, not brain surgery. I mean, it's really kind of just basic common sense, but it takes hard work to do it. So simple,
That's
but
right.
not easy, right?
Be careful.
So 8 simple things. I'm going to shake the table because I always got to touch it because I just got to. And so let's talk about it.
All right, so number 1 is confront your spouse with grace and tactfulness about the issue at hand. Well, we're going to talk about the issues at hand, but if you're going to talk to your spouse, we need to do it with grace and we need to do it with tactfulness. So we don't come... one good thing to say before this is what I'm about to say, is it going to help or is it going to put fuel on this fire
now, is that
already?
something you say to them or something you're saying to yourself?
Something that you're saying to yourself.
Before it comes out of your mouth.
I've got to confront. I got to talk to my spouse about this because without confrontation, there is no growth. Not criticism, but confrontation.
Conflict.
Without conflict, right? So we have to address issues in our marriage to get past them. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, they'll just continue to keep happening, and we'll keep doing the same thing over and over and over, expecting a different result. So, in your knower, what am I about to say? Is this going to help stop this negative behavior, or is it going to fuel it and add gas to it?
Mm-hmm. That's really good.
It
really makes you not say about half the things that you normally would say. So are you trying to perpetuate it and keep it going and ignite it, or is it something that you're actually trying to get a solution for and you want to help stop that behavior?
So I think even in this, as you're going to resolve these issues, if you are thinking about this and you're consciously thinking about this, that okay, no matter what happens, and I bring this up to talk about it, if he or she starts to have an elevated spirit about it, I'm still going to be calm and low key, and I'm not going to raise my to the same elevation.
But not in a patronizing, because we used to try to do that too. Remember? And I'd be like, "All right, Richard would talk to me, and he'd talk to me. Well, baby, I don't know why you're getting your voice so high. I don't know why you're so upset." And the more he would do that, the more my voice would raise, because I knew that he was patronizing.
Somebody took some crazy pills today.
So not in that kind of way. Oh my goodness! You made me forget my great point that I was about to say. Oh, is that how I fight? And I hate to use the word fight because fight sounds like, but whenever a confrontation or a conflict or a conversation, even if you're just having a conversation and it's not even an argument yet, but you know it's a touchy subject, how that conversation starts is how it's typically going to end. So in other words, if you come at somebody sideways and you're raising your voice right out of the gate. Even if during the conversation,
best intentions,
right? Even if during that conversation or that conflict, it goes down a few notches, and you're like, calm down a little bit. Somehow it will heat back up, and it will end that way. People end up storming off. But if you started out calm, even if it raises up, it will typically go back down whenever you get to the end of it.
So the first 3 minutes of how you talk is usually how it works out.
Yeah. Misty says it's a fight, call it what it is. But you know what? I don't want to I'm trying not to speak out things, because to me fighting was like, I know what our fights were like, and we don't have fights like that anymore. We have arguments. Yeah, we have disagreements, but we don't fight like we used to fight. I mean, our stuff used to be fights. And so I
know. Yeah, so one thing that we heard at this conference is once we're able to master our mouth, that shows our level of maturity in Christ. And I just thought that was, when I heard that, I'm like, wow, that really sunk in, because it's so easy to fly off the handle and just say what we want to say.
Well, because we always hear life and death is in the power of the tongue. You know, our tongue is powerful, y'all. It can ignite something. I mean, the Bible has a lot to say about our tongue and about what we say. It's
very good.
So that
was point number one. Confront your spouse with grace and tactfulness.
Right. All right. And number two is check your motivation. You know, why are you, is what you're about to say going to heal the situation, or is it going to hurt and cause it? Because sometimes we're hurt, and so we want to confront or we want to talk about it, but our motivation really isn't at that point. Maybe in the long run we want to fix it and we want it to be better, but because we're hurt, we want
them back. To hurt too.
We want to zing it right back to them. I know when Richard used to hurt me, it wasn't like, oh baby, let me just pray for you. No, it was like, let me hurt you first, and then let's get to and let's try to do it. Which again,
let me let you feel my pain, and once you feel my pain, then we can
hurt for a little while. Right. Which again shows, I think, our level of maturity in Christ. Right.
And so, like we said, these are simple steps, not easy, not always easy to do. But I even see where we were and where we are now, that every single one of these 8 steps that we're going to talk about, we've done and we've gone through, and we continue to. Sometimes it's just like we feel so, man, we've gone, right? Everything got halos. We're just like, man, God,
this. We're like, too.
Come on, man. We're just, Holy Spirit is just working through us.
And then all of a sudden, a little
Satan spawn, man, you know, but we just want to be real, and we want to be authentic, and we want everybody to know that, you know what, that's just what marriage is. But marriage is never a put down situation. We never put each other down. In marriage, marriage is never to put somebody down and to make them feel less than. Ever. Never. Okay? You shouldn't. Number 3, check your attitude. All right? Before you start to bring this up, so we're going to confront our spouse with grace and tactfulness. We are going to check our motivation, and then we're going to check our attitude.
Which means we're going to speak to them in a way that says, I care about you and I respect you.
Right.
So, again, these aren't things that we did for years and years, but it's things that had we learned this, we would have been years ahead of the game. Like, we spent so much time on stuff that never got us anywhere anyway. So we'd have these arguments, and I would say disrespectful things to him. He would do something disrespectful, or I would do something to disrespect us. And then when we would get angry, we would say disrespecting words to each other. And, you know, our attitude was all wrong. We didn't speak, I care about you.
Right. And it was like, well, she doesn't care about me. And so you're in that negative feeling. You're already in that negative argument, that negative environment. Everything is negative. So we can continue to be negative, or we can start turning. Somebody has got to give in and start saying, you know what? I refuse to be a part of our downfall and our demise. one of us is going to have to step up. And you don't say that. Oh, one of us is going to. It's either you or me. Somebody's going to have to step up. But in your knower, just say, you know what? I'm going to put every bit of effort I have in to doing these things as we talk to make our marriage a better, a comfort, a safe place.
And I remember it was very hard for me to come to Richard with respect and honor because we talked about this in other videos, but I just was raised where you didn't reward bad behavior, and so you didn't respect people unless they deserved to be respected. But marriage is so different. It's not what the world says about respect and that you command respect and that this person has to be. This is our spouse. This is our husband. The Bible says that we are to respect our husbands and that they are to love their wives. And I had to respect him whenever he wasn't doing things that I thought were respectful. I had to seem like God saw him, whether I was hurting, whatever was happening in the flesh, I had to respect him. And had I known these things, we could have gotten to the root of a lot of things a lot quicker.
Misty said something very important. Our feelings lie. And that's so true.
Good.
Because sometimes our confrontation is built on a lie. And our feelings and our emotions are all involved. So we just spit venom because that's the energy that we have. That's where we are. We're just trapped in this.
And you have that feelings of your roller coaster. Like, I didn't understand that love was a choice. And so to me, it was only how I felt at that moment, at that time, whether you were hurting me, that's all that mattered. But love is a choice. And when we get married, we have to choose to love our spouse and respect them, whether they deserve it or not. Now, I'm not saying if somebody's doing something cruel to you or hurting you, but if they're doing behavior that's not of what marriage looks like, then if we went to them with love and respect and honor and talked to them and they did the same to us, we could get to the root of some of this stuff and that behavior would stop a lot quicker. So
Number 4, check your circumstance. Why? Why is this an issue? Why is this happening?
Talk about that for a second. So why? Yeah.
Okay.
No, go ahead.
There's 2 parts to right. There's always a deep root issue, and we could always deal with the surface stuff. We could always deal with the feelings and the emotions, and we can talk about it. But that is all on the surface level. We've got to be able to get to the root of it. And I always say that even when you prune a tree and you cut back all the branches, you could continue. If you want to kill a tree, you can cut all the branches. You can cut it all the way down level with the ground. But until you get to the root and kill the root and deal with the root, that tree is always going to start branching out again.
Because I look at it how and let's just there's so many issues that we had. We could give you a whole list of them, but I guess one that was a big one for us was pornography. Y'all know that we've talked about that before, and I just want to bring that up so we can kind of give you like what that looks like and how to do this. We didn't talk about it at first. I would just get angry, and then it was just always a big. We get on the crazy cycle, and then we'd all finally calm down after a couple days. Everybody was friendly again, and I promised, and everybody's fine. And I
wouldn't want to talk about it,
right? But we never talked about the root.
Yeah.
It was just like, it's not going to happen. I'm not going to do it. I promise, baby. And I'd say, okay, I trust you, and then until it happened again. Because we never really talked about why is this happening.
And that happened over and over and over. It wasn't like 1 time or 2 times or 3 times or 5 times. This is 50, 60, 70 times. It was an issue in our marriage. And there's no way that we could take the abundance and the overflow and live in the supernatural. God brings people together so we can work through all this bad stuff, all this sin. Let's call it what it is. It's sin. Let's work through all of this sin in our life so that God has a clean slate and a place to work. And until we get there, and He uses your spouse to bring that out, not to point it out, but to bring it out, and not in an unhealthy way that makes you feel even less than. And we were so good at doing that to each other. And then we started to realize that, we've got to build each other up.
Yeah. And if you knew how what God sees, God knows He put you with this spouse on purpose, even though that person that you're with may be the person that gives you the biggest rub and that's the biggest, most irritating, whatever thing. There's a reason for it because God knows that He can trust you guys with it. He knows that y'all are the best one. I'm the best person that's going to help Him work those things out. He is the best person that's going to work out the things in me that need to be worked out. Nobody else is going to do it as good as He could do it. And even though we don't feel it because we don't like the truth, when we get to the root of those things and when we can start talking about some of these things and not just being angry about them and not just accusing and hurting each other and criticizing and
Chris, thanks for having that watch party going on.
Yes, thank you, Chris. So Chris has a watch party going on. So if you guys do a watch party right now, you could do that also. It would be great. So check your circumstance. Why? Start to get to the root. And you might not be able to start those conversations and get deep right away, but just maybe just come to them with love and say, I don't understand why this is happening, but I would like to get to the root of it. I would like us to work through this. So
if you can't talk about it now, I would like to talk about it, here in the next few days. So can we get our thoughts together and sit down and let's just work through this?
And make it, take it to God first. Because I didn't know how to talk. Every time Richard would try to talk to me about stuff, I would freak out. Then he didn't want to talk because he knew I would freak out. But whenever God just gave me some, I don't know, peace or grace to be able to talk about it and just love him, because nothing else was working. I just felt like I'd given up, okay, let's try something else.
She did. Actually, she did give up. She gave up all of the stuff that she'd learned in her life on how to deal with stuff. And she said, you know what? I'm just going to do it God's way. And then I'm going to put it all on him. And if he can't do it, then, but you know what? She became that Proverbs 30, that 1 Peter 3 wife, the Proverbs 31 wife. She started to do those things. And it wasn't, I know she's about to say.
I'm about to say my favorite joke.
Right.
No, my favorite joke is, Richard loves to tell people that, Sherry, she was a Proverbs 31 woman. And I say, back then I was like a 28 or 29, okay? So not quite there yet.
So check your circumstance wise. And one thing that we did for sure is we never argued in front of our children, and we never argued in front of our parents, because that always leaves a negative effect. It changes who your children are. If you're arguing and fighting, and you're like, oh, they know who my father's like, oh, they know what their father's like, oh, they know what their mother's like, all that's doing is half them. So it's changing the personality of your children.
Who they are.
Don't fight
in front of your kids.
That's the truth.
And another thing, not even part of this, but if you're with your kids alone and not with your spouse, don't talk to your kids about your spouse. When you're angry with them and you're talking about his father so you can get them on your side, if you're doing it, stop it. That's all I'm going to tell you is just stop it. I'm not going to go the whole reason, just stop it.
Number 5, let's correct the problem and not your spouse. Ooh. That's really, that was so hard because we want to fix the problem, we want to fix the spouse. You see your spouse, you're like, just don't do that behavior anymore.
And I would think if I just know better than he does. If he would just do these things, he would be so much better. Our life would be better. Like I can just fix him. So
what we do is we figure out what's the problem, what's the root, how's the issue, come with respect and honor, and we do everything that we were saying in the first 5 steps. And this is how we get to the root of the problem. This is how we figure the problem out. And then we put up, this is what we're going to do. You agree? Yeah, I agree. Okay. And then if we deviate from that, hey, remember this is what we said, because sometimes we hit the mark and it's good. And we're like, man, we're able to deal with it. And we move on and man, it never is a problem again. But sometimes we get off course, and instead of blowing up and going back to how we used to be, hey, remember we talked about it. You agreed. I agreed. This is what we came up with and this is what we're going to do. Let's stick to the plan. And you start working the plan that you guys come up with together. All right, not the plan that this is my plan of what you needed. No, this is our plan of how we're going to deal with this.
That we're going to deal with the problem, not fixing because one spouse is better than the other spouse, or.
And we heard a very amazing testimony, and there was a couple that was talking about infidelity in their marriage, and that she was so hurt that she wanted him to do A, B, C, D, and E when he was out now by himself. And to me, it sounded like a laundry, like, man, you got to do this, you got to, I want to know who you're with, I want to see pictures, send me if you're going out to lunch. And I'm like, man, isn't that a lot? But Sherry goes, you know what? If this is what she needs to feel comfortable and to feel where she can to feel safe and trust him, even though she said, I don't trust him, I trust God, which I thought was huge too. But when you have that list and that's their list, then it might not work for them, but it works. It's working for them. It might not work for you.
So what you're saying is, so for them, they had gone through infidelity, but then they had gone through healing.
Right.
But even though they'd gone through counseling and everything for like a year, they still had some things that she required. Like he wants her, she looks at his phone, but it wasn't like, I'm going to have your phone. Now he actually wants her to, he said he actually feels loved when she looks at his phone. But she wanted to know, well, let me see the text with whoever it is you're going to lunch with, so I know that's really who you're going to lunch with. And I remember it was just yesterday we heard it, and he was like, man, that's kind of harsh. And I thought, but for her, until she can get to that point, and so if you've gone through a situation like that, whatever the offense is, whoever the person is the victim of that, whatever it is that they need to be able to feel safe, it's kind of their right. Like
and for the other person to have grace, because we can literally get through anything. We can get through anything as long as God is on our side. And he's always on our side, but we have to put him in the center of our marriage.
And so number 6 is to choose an issue and stick with it. Stick with the issue, because you know how easy it is to bring it up. And I still sometimes do it. Richard will say
Guys
something.
will bring up their one little issue. I got this
And
one
then I'm
little
just like,
issue.
oh.
Great. I'm glad you bring that up, because I've got 20.
The reason that I'm like that is because of, we bring our thing out.
Let me bring the scroll of old.
So try to stick to the issue. There's plenty of time to talk
Thou
about
hast come against me in many a thine way.
Misty says, don't badger your spouse to your friends either. Good point. That's a really good point. Yeah, that's right. So choose the issue to deal with. Deal with an issue at a time, not a laundry list. There's time to deal with all that stuff. Stick to one issue. You'll be surprised when you do that how much easier it is to talk about another issue that's on your list whenever a person doesn't feel like they're just being attacked.
What we're saying is we're not saying, okay, we're going to talk about finance, we're going to talk about discipline of the kids, none of that. Okay, we're going to talk about finance. Let's get a goal for finance. Now, disciplining the kids, that could be an issue, but you know what? Today we're not going to talk about that. We're not going to talk about you running late. We're not going to talk about. We're going to talk about finances. That's all we're going to talk about.
And I heard a thing yesterday at this conference that I loved. It was about finances. I thought it was such a great point. And they said that when you are talking about finances, just because you brought it up, not to talk about the other person so much. Actually, it's going to be number 7, and we'll just use it. It'll be a great point for the next one we're going to talk about. So the next one is talk about the behavior rather than the character of your spouse.
You are always a spender. You can't save any money. You're always shopping.
Yeah. Or whatever. I mean, just whenever.
You're just like your mother. Ooh, fight on.
Yeah, Richard hated for me to say that he was just like his mother.
Because, man, my mom is like, my name is Pamela Delilah de los Santos, and that means of the saints, and get out of my way.
Yeah, and we wouldn't fight in front of his mom, but she would try to get us to fight in front of her.
Oh, yeah.
Like, she would try to, because she said, like, I'm a Mexican, not a Mexican. And so I think she made that phrase up before George Lopez ever made it up. And so she would say things like, so Blondie, how's the honeymoon?
And Sherry had told me over and over, she goes, tell her that my name is not Blondie, that I have a name, and it's Sherry. And I'd be like, Mom, do me a favor. Sherry I said, man, it's Sherry. I know. That's why I call her Blondie. I'll never forget that.
Blondie.
So Blondie, how's the honeymoon? As she's sipping her Dr. Pepper. Over. And I'm like, oh my gosh. I thought, here it is, cat fight, Oh, man.
She would come to our house, and I like things really clean and organized. And she would come over, and she's like, I can't sit.
She'd break out her Kleenex.
And she'd like fluff it like that and say, I don't know, I can sit anywhere. It's so clean. Everything looks like it feels like I'm in a museum. But you know what?
Oh my gosh.
I'm going to tell you.
And I would go and hide.
We've been together 16 years, and probably at about year 12 or so, maybe even 10, she turned and she started loving me like her own daughter, and Blondie became a term of endearment. And
then it was them two against me.
Yes.
What happened? I don't know what happened.
Like, Mejito, what did you do to my Blondie?
Right. Oh,
so I was her blonde angel. So anyway.
So talk about the behavior.
Not your
spouse's character. All right.
And so that's always also.
How is this behavior affecting our family? How is this behavior how's it affecting you? The person that's doing it. When you act like, when this is happening and this comes out, man, it's hard for you to listen to your children. It's hard for you to listen to us. We don't feel love coming from you. We don't feel protected. Be able to talk like that. So just, I know that you don't see it, but this is what's happening, and this is how we feel. And you have every right to feel how you feel. Just because the other person doesn't feel the same doesn't mean that your feelings are wrong. If they go, oh, that's stupid, you shouldn't feel like that. Well, I do feel like that.
Oh, that was what we used to do to each other.
Yeah,
all the
we
time.
did.
We would always say, Richard would say, well, I think that's stupid. You shouldn't feel that way. And I'm like, and I would start thinking, well, how come I feel that way? I mean, it would
maybe it is stupid.
Maybe it is stupid. But then I'm like, wait, it's not stupid. It's how I feel. And so big thing. But so going back to that point just now about the finances, is that we heard that when you're talking about your finances, which is a great point for talk about the behavior rather than the character of your spouse. So if you're talking about finances in particular, instead of talking about how they always spend and how they're, you cut them down and who they are as a person, you talk about why you want the budget to be better, and you're talking about the finances and how it's going to help your life and your family, and the reason. I thought about so many couples we've talked to where a lot of times it's the wife that's a spender and the husband's angry, and he just constantly on her, and then it seems like the more he gets on her, the more she spends. But whenever I thought this is a whole different way to start talking to couples talk to them about why the budget's important and what your goals are together and what y'all are working towards. Man, you'll get to where you're not going to even want to spend an extra $5 because you know what, you're doing it for the good of that you guys are in complete
maybe
agreement.
use examples. I saw my parents save all the time, and that's probably why I'm jacked up in the savings department, because I always have to save. But they taught me to save, and man, I saw that when they went to retire, they had enough money that they were able to travel and they were able to do this, and they weren't constricted to certain things. They were actually able to enjoy, the golden years of their life. And that's what I want for us. And when you just start speaking to each other like that, man, it does something. The other person, when you're talking feelings to,
when you're talking heart to heart.
If we're talking from our mind, and how we're thinking, then we're going to change our spouse's mind. And if we're talking about our heart, from our heart, then we're going to change our spouse's heart. Mm-hmm. But when we talk about from our life and how we felt and what went on in our life, then we will change each other's life. And that's what we want to do.
That's good. You're so good, baby. You're so deep.
Well, it's because I got a Proverbs 31 woman. You're not a 28 or 29.
I'm doing a Bible study with all these women right now about women, and we just talked about the Proverbs 31 woman, and I got such a relief about it because I've always thought, she's out there doing all this stuff all the time, and I thought, how does she ever sleep? She was just like.
Right.
Busy. She's busy.
Fruitful.
She's very fruitful. But what I found was that if you really read Proverbs 31 woman, it's actually different seasons in her life. It doesn't necessarily mean she's doing all these things at one time. It just means these are things that God values. And so I just love that.
Number 8, the last one on our list is talk about facts rather than judging the motive. Mm-hmm. So let's talk about the facts. Stick to the facts.
Like they say in police work.
Right. Investigate.
No, but that's the thing. I could have opened my own private investigating firm back in the day. I could have been Sherry's. I could have had all you women. I could have been a millionaire right now because I could figure out things Richard was doing before he even knew he was going to do them because I'd figured out his patterns. Kind of like I could probably figure out serial killers or whatever because you could figure out how they think. I knew how he would think. How he would say, "How did you know these things? How do you know it?" I'm like, I don't know, but I would know it before.
I thought she was all in. Man, I thought God was just talking to her directly, so I was scared. I was going to turn my life around.
So stick to the facts. Don't instead of judging. Can you turn it off? Mm-hmm. Okay. So talk about the facts rather than judging. We have a timer, so we're trying to stay in this really good little deal. How many minutes did we go so far?
30.
Okay, so we're about to turn it off. So why don't you finish talking about that? Number 8.
That was it. Just talking about the facts, because it's easy to get off track and to start attacking character. If we want to stick to a plan. All right, we want to turn our marriage around. We want to turn situations around. What's bad and not working so well. We want to be able to turn those around. Mm-hmm. And if we've tried and we've done it our way, and we're still having these issues, then man, that's why we want to start with these top 8 things to do differently. Mm-hmm.
And so talking about the facts rather than judging the motive is really important because I know when we used to argue, I would start judging the reasons why he did it and just who he was as a person and how he was trying to hurt me and how he was trying to mess up the kid. So many things. So if you can stick to those facts, that would make things a lot better.
All right.
So we'll go over it really quick. Now 8, not easy. 8 simple things that you can do to get your marriage back on track or to change your marriage is number 1 is to confront your spouse with grace and tactfulness. Number 2 is to check your motivation. Number 3 is to check your attitude. Number 4 is to check your circumstance. Number 5 is to correct the problem, not your spouse. Number 6 is to choose one issue at a time. Number 7 is talk about the behavior rather than the character of your spouse. And number 8 is to talk about the facts rather than judging the motive.
That's right.
So we hope these things are helping. We're about to hop off because we got a 21st birthday party to go to for our daughter.
That's right.
And we're about to be empty nesters, so we got a whole nother season to talk about with y'all about that. So see what that brings.
So we're praying for each one of you. Thank you for tuning in. Follow us on Tell your friends about us.
And if you look on Facebook now, we put all these videos on YouTube, but actually Facebook now has all these videos. So if you go to the Real Brights and just click videos, all the videos are on there just like a YouTube channel. So I'm loving Facebook. I love the way they did it. We have a whole marriage playlist, and there's probably about 14 or 15 videos on there now. So pretty soon we're going to have 52 because we're doing this for a whole year. And so send what you want us to talk about. Send us, give us feedback. We love you. We ask that you please share our videos. And
I was going to say, follow us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram, follow us on YouTube. Just don't follow us home.
Bye, y'all. Happy Sunday.